Before we start today's class, why don't we look into the assignments, children? You had an assignment to identify the problems faced by rural community. The first is the unhygienic conditions. The second, unscientific agricultural practices. The third, poor health facilities. And the fourth, poverty. Another activity was to identify the programs introduced by the government in rural areas. The first one, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. The second, Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Yojana. The third, Sarva Siksha Abhiyan. The fourth, Bhagya Lakshmi Yojana. I'm sure you've all written it correct. Let's discuss the answers of the fill in the blanks, children. The reasons for illiteracy among the rural population are poverty, unemployment, and lack of education. Second, in rural areas, due to unhygienic conditions, there are multiple diseases. Third, farmers get very less yield from their crops because of unscientific agricultural practices. Fourth, the scheme introduced by the government for providing better education to the children in rural area is Sarva Siksha Abhiyan. For laying better roads, the government has introduced Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Take out your books and check the correct answers, children. Before we start with today's classes, why don't we just have a small recap of what we learned in the last class? We had learnt what a community is, what are the different features of a community, and we have learnt about rural community, the problems faced by the rural community like health, hygienic conditions and so on, and what are the different programs which are introduced by the government to help the rural community. Now let's start with today's classes. Children, can you see that beautiful picture on the screen? The flashing lights, the skyscraper buildings and so on. The moment you see all this, what do you realize? Yes, you're in an urban community or in a town or a city. So group of people who live in large towns and big city are called urban community. What are urban community? Group of people living in large town and city are called urban community. Just like we discussed the occupations of the rural community, now let us see the occupations of urban community. The different places of work where the urban people go are they work in schools, they work in banks, you have post offices, they work in the different malls which are all around the city. They work in heavy industries, like you have many factories over here, they work in there. Then you have garages, restaurants, hospitals, IT industries, and so many more occupations in urban community. Now you can see that compared to the rural community, the amount of occupations and the chances of employment are more in urban communities. When we go to villages, what are the things we see? We see greenery, we see lovely houses, old houses, we see lot of fields, we see lot of animals, big places, lakes and so on. But when you come into a city, what do you see? You see apartments, malls. I think malls are the beauty of the city, isn't it? Those tall buildings with lights all over. Rows and rows of skyscrapers. It is more like you're in a concrete jungle with so many buildings around you. Commercial complexes. Of course, you all love commercial complexes. You can go there and shop for your clothes and toys. Vehicles. Oh, really? There are lots of vehicles around the city, isn't it? You have two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and big lorries, and so on. Then you have big houses, mobile networks, restaurants and hotels, colleges and education institutions, railway stations and bus stations, and so many more. These are the things which we see when we visit a city. We learned there were so many problems in the rural community. Now, what are the problems of the urban community? We are all staying in urban community. We know most of the problems. Let us list a few of the problems. Increasing pollution, shortage of water, constant power cuts, growing slums, traffic jams, disposal of garbage, housing problems, and overcrowding of vehicles. Let us see some of the problems one by one. Let us learn about the first problem, increasing pollution. I don't think I have to explain much about it. If you go at 10 o'clock in the morning and go stand on the roads, you'll be coughing a lot because of the smoke from the different vehicles. And if you live nearby a factory, I think you would know, understand quite well. There's so many different kinds of pollution. It could be noise pollution, it could be air pollution, smoke outside you. On the whole, life in a city means lot of pollution. Another major problem which we face is the shortage of water. You would know in their houses, your parents will say, please take bath soon, get your things ready. The water will come only for 2 hours. After that, we have to wait for water, isn't it, children? Most of the bore wells are drying up because of too many people are there in the city. And the water is certainly less. And people do waste a lot of water. How many of you keep the tap open when you're brushing your teeth? Don't you think you're wasting water? You can see that nowadays we have to buy water to drink. There was a situation when water was free for everybody. No, now you have to buy. What is going to be the situation of water in future? So we better start conserving water, children. Another problem is the constant power cuts. Evening when you finish all your playing and you come back and sit and start studying, there goes the current. It becomes fully dark and your mother starts scolding. You should have written when the light was there. You wasted your time playing. Correct, children? Most of the times during the summer season, we face a lot of power cuts. So it is very important for you not to leave the lights on when you're not in the room. You have to conserve your electricity just like you're conserving your water also. We can see when we walk through some places, there'll be some small makeshift houses where lots of workers stay. These are known as slum areas where the houses are not permanent houses. Actually, these houses have been built for those people who work in different places but do not belong to the city. They've come here searching for a job. Now, slowly and steadily, these areas are increasing. Unfortunately, these areas lack hygiene because of which diseases spread all around. So this is one of the problems which all the urban places face, that is growing of slums. What is that you see on the screen? Yes, so many vehicles. When you people want to go somewhere out of station, your parents will tell you get up early. We will start early in the morning to avoid the rush and the traffic jam. What happens is it, as the time increases and the peak hour comes, everybody starts from their houses to go to their different work or to different places. Nowadays, everybody owns cars. So what happens? The road is totally blocked. Traffic jam is really a major problem which all the urban places face. During night times, if you look from your house window or the balconies, you can find some people bringing plastic covers and throwing it on the roads. They are throwing the waste in plastic covers onto the roads, though the garbage collectors come every day. This is really a problem in all the urban areas. They do not want to segregate the waste. They do not want to wait for the garbage people to come. They go in bikes and cars and just throw the garbages on the roads. What happens? So much of smell and stinkiness comes from these garbage, which will send a lot of diseases to others. That is why we have lot of mosquitoes breeding and the diseases are at their peak. So it is very important to dispose your garbage only in the garbage truck collectors who come to pick it up. What do you see on the screen? You can see lot of buildings packed together like matchboxes. Long ago, the name given to Bangalore was the Garden City, pensioners' paradise, a place with full of trees and beautiful greenery. Now it is a concrete jungle. You can see only houses everywhere, overcrowding, and the people are unable to find a small place now to build a house. Most of the houses are like one building, next building, continuous. That is also the reason why the pandemic like COVID is also spreading very fast. This is one of the evils of all urban areas. Just like in the rural areas, when the government has introduced a lot of schemes for the betterment of the villages, here in cities and urban areas also the government has increased a lot of measures. Now, some of the schemes introduced by the government for the development of the urban community, we shall take up one by one. The first and the most important scheme is supply of pure drinking water. You would have heard in your home, your parents would say, tomorrow is Kaveri water day. What does that show? The government is purifying water and sending through pipelines to your home, which is fit for drinking. This water is chlorinated and excellent for drinking purpose. So the first scheme is supply of pure drinking water. Another main problem we face in big cities like this with too many of people is the blockage of the sewage system. So now the government has introduced systematic sewage system by putting big pipes under the ground so that the water will flow into the sewages without any problems. In crowded areas, it is very important to have a systematic transport, and setting up well-planned bus and railway stations are very important. You can see that the city corporation has opened lots of bus terminus to provide better facilities of transport. And the number of railway stations have also been increased to facilitate travel for the people. It is very important for us to have a daily regime of exercise and to breathe in some good air. In a city where pollution levels are very high, it is very important to have certain open places where pollutions are not there, where children can play, the elderly can walk. So, the city has set up lots of parks. You would have heard of JP Park, Shanky Tank Park, Cubbon Park, and so on. All these have been set up by the city corporation to help the senior citizens and the young children to have some unpolluted air. We have seen that the major problem is traffic jams. The government is laying ring roads. What are these ring roads? These are big highways which are constructed around the city so that travelers can go from one place to another place without entering the city and creating more traffic. Such ring roads have been put up all over the place to help and facilitate in travels. The government is also setting up systematic market complexes to regulate the sale of fruits, vegetables, and daily needs and necessities of the people. You can see on the picture the KR market complex. Here are some points to remember, children. Please take out your classwork and write them. Group of people living in large towns and cities are called urban community. The people in urban areas work in schools, banks, post offices, malls, heavy industries, garage, restaurant, hospitals, IT industries, private and public offices. When we visit a city, we see apartments, malls, rows and rows of skyscrapers, commercial complexes, vehicles, mobile net towers, restaurants, huge educational institutions, bus stations, railway stations, and airport. Some more points to remember, children. The problems faced by the urban community are as follows: increasing pollution, shortage of water, scarcity of electricity, growing slums, traffic jam, disposal of garbage, housing problems, overcrowding. The government has introduced schemes for urban development programs. They are supply of pure drinking water, better sewage system, development of parks, laying ring roads around the city, construction of well-planned bus and railway station, construction of systematic market complexes. Here is an activity, children. You can see on the screen 3 moving pictures. You have to identify by looking at the pictures what the problems they depict. One more activity, children. Identify the programs introduced by the government in urban areas by looking at the pictures. We will discuss the answers in the next class. Thank you.